Hey everyone, welcome to ALB programming lesson. In the previous lesson, we've learned to obtain any specified date time and the current date time. Now what? If you've been following this series, you know we're trying to develop a little program to send reminders like this. One of its requirements is 1 day in advance, which means the difference between the specified date and the current date is supposed to be 1 day. In the code, I would like to write something like this. If someday minus now equal to certain amount of date, then send email. Well, it is a common sense that we can do arithmetic calculation only between numbers, right? But someday and now are not yet a number, strictly speaking. So if you try subtracting like this, you see an error which says syntax error on the minus, invalid operator. Well, if you want to do subtraction between these two dates, you need to kind of convert them into numbers. In Java programming language, we do it by calling a method like getTime. This method returns a long integer. Now I'm going to spend a couple of minutes and explain what the output of this actually means. I'm going to draw a timeline, the year 1970, now, and the future time. I'm going to draw another timeline, the year 1970, the time that has been passed, someday, and the future time. Alright, the definition of this method is the milliseconds that have passed since the year 1970. Means milliseconds that have passed since 1970. To be more accurate, January the 1st, 1970, 0 o'clock sharp. Now that we know the distance between now and 1970, and we also know the distance between someday and the year 1970, we can find the difference between someday and now, right? We do it by someday getTime, parenthesis, which is this difference, minus now dot getTime, parenthesis. This statement outputs the millisecond pass from now until someday. Let's define a variable named difference to store the output. Remember to add a semicolon. Alright, this is the milliseconds, the same unit as this and this. To emphasize my point, I'm going to define another variable, and the value is identical to the difference. Now that we know the milliseconds, we can easily calculate the second by dividing it by 1000. Right? Now that we have the second, we can find the minute by dividing the second by 60. Of course, you can find it from millisecond like this. Difference divided by 1000 divided by 60 like this. Alright, now that we know the minutes, we can find the hours. Now that we know the hours, we can find the days. Like this. Of course, you can calculate from the difference, like this. Difference divided by 1000, divided by 60, divided by 60, divided by 24, like this. Now why don't we print these values into the Eclipse console? Let's use this method. As you know, we've used it in Hello World. Just like this. Let's also print out the other values. Just copy and paste. Easy. And comment out the extra line. Double click on the tab and get a smaller editing area and get the console back. Alright, save the file, run the program by right clicking on the editing area, going to Run As, and clicking Java Application. Oops, got an exception because of here. I defined the date format to be this, with hyphen separating the year and the month, but here I use slash. I'm gonna change it back to hyphen, just like this. Save the file and run the program. Here's what we've got. The milliseconds remaining, the seconds, the minutes, the hours, the days. Well, these results must be different from yours because these are relative to now, the current date time. When I'm recording this video, I get this value, but when you test it, let's say in the year 2025, you might even get a negative number. If you know the meaning of getTime method, that's pretty self-explanatory. Well, I'm gonna change the someday to 2018. Just like this. Save the file and run the program. I did get these results when I was recording this video. Alright, in summary, we've learned to compare date time by finding the difference between two dates. But you know, we cannot subtract two date objects. So we have to get time in the first place. Get time. This method returns the millisecond that have passed since the year 1970. With this method, you can do subtraction like this. I've already explained the reasoning here. You know, this interval is in milliseconds, and this one as well. So you can find the difference. Also, from the milliseconds, you can calculate the equivalent days, hours, minutes, and seconds. But if you try to find a month like this, dividing by 30, it's not accurate. You know, some months have 30 days, some have 31 days, some have 29 or 28 days. Well, Apart from this lesson, I also encourage you to learn to use calendar class. You can search this keyword, Java calendar class, or java.util.calendar. Next lesson, we will learn some other ways to compare date time along with decision making with if-else statements. That's it. I hope you learned something. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next lesson. Peace.